Working for CEOs, C-suite executives, you really need to think about how you could help them, how you could get other stuff off their shoulders. I make sure that I love what I do.
Hmm.
Because if you love what you do, then it doesn't really feel like work. At the end of the day, it brings value to the company. You help streamline their process and help the CEO in his strategies in running the company, cutting costs and streamlining processes. Try something even just once for the experience. Somehow it opens up opportunities you never expected.
Hello and welcome to the Differentiation podcast. My name is Michèle Sorgaroli and I'm your host. And today we are being joined by Grace Suttorp. Now, Grace has spent over 20 years supporting executives and leading highly complex projects. However, she's one of those rare people who somehow thrives in fast environments and makes organization look like an art form. Not sure how she does it. We're going to figure out more of that in a little bit. Grace is a voracious learner. She is also passionate about community, and her ever-growing list of hobbies includes everything from do-it-yourself projects to photography, cooking, blogging, agriculture, and most recently, she's doing involved in pottery and wall climbing. So, Grace, I cannot wait to dig in with you. A woman of many interests and a lot of variety. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Michelle. How are you today?
I am good. I am looking forward to this conversation because, as I mentioned, you're one of those rare individuals that seems to very easily combine both structure and creativity. So I'm so curious about that because you obviously have an appreciation for organization and structure. And at the same time, you do make it look like an art form. So I
Oh,
want to start us off in the
thank you.
beginning.
Okay,
Knowing a little bit about you, I know that you studied, you grew up in the Philippines, is my understanding,
that's
and you
correct.
studied economics, and then you also did an MBA. And so I'm curious about your experience as a young girl. I'm assuming creativity was in here somewhere, and art and all these interesting passions were in there somewhere. Tell us a little bit about who you were as a young girl, and then how did you end up studying economics?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that. So, I'm from the Philippines, and growing up, I would say that, well, not everybody know this, but we grew up in a very strict family unit.
Mm.
Mother's side is Spanish, and father's side is Chinese.
Oh,
So you know how
that's
those cultures are. They're very, strict upbringing and all that. But I guess in Asia,
yeah.
it's different from every country, Asian country, especially third world countries. Upbringing is different,
Hmm.
very strict. We were just school and church, and my dad always check on us, and he's like, okay, what time are you going home?
Mm.
And if you did something bad, you're probably gonna get a little bit of beating, if I would
Oh,
say. That's how it is. Actually, this is
hmm.
normal
Yeah.
in Asia. So there's that. I remember when I was small, when I was a little girl, I would do a lot of play cooking with my playmates, neighbors. I have a little ukulele. I remember that. I have a
Oh
picture of
my
myself
gosh.
holding a small guitar. It
Oh
was
my
really
gosh.
cute. And I thought, okay, well, I maybe when I grew up, I went and joined the choir group and
Okay.
started singing in the church. And then I love cooking, so I guess I kind of manifested everything that I was doing when I was a small girl. But yeah, no, in terms of culture growing up, yeah, I came from a very strict family unit. You have to have these grades. You should
Mm.
not have failing grades, stuff like that. You should be home around this time. We pray the rosary at 6 p.m. Like, Philippines is
Mm.
we were under the Spanish regime for 300 plus years. So religion is really big back
Mm-hmm.
home, and it kind of
Mm-hmm.
influenced us growing up as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. And so as you had such a creative spirit, obviously, and interestingly, in a strict home life and culture in that sense. Where did economics come into the picture? I'm curious about how you've gone from all of this creative self to studying something numbers oriented.
Right. Well, I remember in university, we all went into that stage where okay, after high school, what are you going to do? Right.
Yeah.
So my sisters and we all went to that phase wherein after graduation, what are you going to do? We don't
Yeah.
know. I don't
Right.
know. Like sometimes even right now, well, not right now, but I mean 10, 15 years ago,
Yeah.
I was in my first job and I thought to myself, is this what I want to do? Right.
Mm.
But then in during university, we have business management, economics, and psychology as my top three choices. My mom always wants me to go to psychology to take up psychology
Oh,
for
interesting.
some reason. I don't know why, but because you know how parents would just be, hey, take this, take accounting. My dad wants me to be a CPA. And I thought, okay, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
So I went on researching and I narrowed it down to three: business management, economics, or psychology. And I just thought economics because, okay, there's graph, there's analysis. I'm not really big with numbers like numeracy, like accounting numeracy. But
Mm-hmm.
then there's analysis and graphs, and I'm very visual. And
Ah,
analysis is different than numeracy, like strict numeracy,
computation or
computation, and
yeah.
all that stuff. So I thought, okay, well, this is the best, I guess, choice. So I just took economics then. I just
I
chose that.
love that. That is
Yeah.
super interesting that
Hmm.
you highlighted being visual, which is your creative
Hmm.
self, and
Yes.
seeing the graphs as something that was something easier for you to absorb and learn and to connect with. And the analysis piece being here's that complexity piece coming in.
Mhm.
What was it about the complexity that most captured your interest?
What was it? I guess because you can say it's kind of about problem solving too, right?
Hmm.
So you analyze something, and at the end of the day, you kind of wanted to analyze the premise, and then you arrive to a solution. So I guess that's kind of how I view that course, and I got interested in. I'm also really fond of, like, how you have the like scavengers hunt, stuff like that,
Yeah.
and games which involves, like, survivor skills, stuff like that. Even the Survivor TV series, like I I would watch that, and then I would strategically tell myself, okay, oh, you should have done this, you should have done that. If I'm in your shoe,
Interesting.
this is what I'm gonna do, like strategies and problem solving. Yeah, that interests me a lot.
Oh my gosh, that's so clever. So you've been practicing. But
I'm not really, but it's just, like, they just come like interest that, okay, well, I see this one, and then I told myself, oh, this is interesting, and then suddenly I find myself getting really into this type of activity, right? No, I'm not. I unknowingly doing
hmm
it.
hmm
Yeah.
hmm It's curious, huh? As we're thinking,
Mhm.
there's a lot of strategy and solutions in economics, and economics is notorious for being a very complex discipline,
Yes, it is.
right? To understand all the nuances of it. I'm
Mhm.
fascinated by this conversation. And there's the art in it, where you saw the graphs, right? And the
Yes,
complexity of the problem was analytical and strategic, but it gave you that visual aspect that allowed you to see potential solutions or potential um, opportunities differently,
correct.
right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So I mean, even in my previous job, I remember before I came to Canada, I was teaching part-time economics. All back home, if you have a master's degree, you can actually teach
Okay.
whatever you studied. Since
Okay.
I had economics as an undergrad
Yeah.
in business as my master's degree, I was able to teach a subject that
Okay.
I studied. So I taught economics, microeconomics and macroeconomics for with university students.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's take us to, so you studied
Mhm.
economics and then you did your master's and then you were teaching. And
Yes.
as I alluded to earlier, you've been supporting executives, high level executives, and leading very complex projects for quite some time now. How did your interests develop in terms of supporting these leaders who are involved in complex situations?
Right. So after graduation, I remember working for the government for 5 years straight. Right. So I was working with my dad,
Oh,
and so I was in the Treasury Department. In my third year, I thought, okay, I
interesting.
think I'm bored and I want to go back to school.
Okay.
So that's when I took my master's degree and I was working. So I was a working student at that time. And after my 3.5 years, almost 4 years of study, I decided that, okay, I don't want to work for the government anymore. And that's when I applied for a private company. And my first job is working for an American CEO for the hospital in the hospitality industry.
Okay.
Yeah, so I really liked it ever since. That's been my career for like more or less 20 years now. And what I like about it is that, you work hand in hand, almost really personal, like close
Hmm.
and personal with the CEO or with the VP, and you get to know their strategies. And I guess we
Ah.
went back to the strategies again, right? So I'm really curious about, how they run the company and how, that they strategize to run the company, their plans for the company. And in a way, I thought, okay, it's an honor, it's a privilege to work with these executives, because you're like you're working with somebody who's making decisions for the company,
Mm,
right?
fascinating. Yeah. And so when you were supporting this, I remember from a previous conversation that you were supporting these CEOs and leaders, and the project management piece and the organization piece is something that is really important to you. Organizing the chaos or keeping everything, keeping all the
Correct.
balls in the air, right?
Correct.
I am wondering about that because I know that you do treat it like an art form. That's my expression, not necessarily yours, but it is a craft. You have mastered the craft of organization. What is it that when you are organizing that keeps you inspired?
Well, you could say that, okay, I think I honestly have a little bit of OCD on everything, if I could say it that way. Um, for me, I can't really work if something is not organized. So I guess I'm really big on structure.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say structure, I kind of, how do I put it? So for example, if I'm working for a CEO, for example, and there's a report that I needed to submit,
Mm-hmm.
I would be I would be thinking about, okay, what's the first step, second step, third step, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
I was trained to think that way. I guess I got it from the university, wherein we are trained to think that way. Remember, I was with the government for 5 years,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
I went to school, and somehow my mind just changed, right? So the way you think, the way
Yeah.
you you do things, and then it just kind of bring it to the workplace as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I see your cat in the corner there.
I know,
It's just
sorry,
off.
I'm getting
No,
distracted. I'm
it's
so
okay. Bring
sorry
your cat
about
into the
that.
picture. You got a little playful kitten. Come on, bring him in.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
You don't need to be. It's super cute. That's who we are. I know that your pets are a big part of your life as well. So don't be
They
shy.
are.
Absolutely. It's all good. That's
So
part of
sorry
the,
about that.
no, that's
Yeah.
lovely. It's all part of it. So as you're organizing and bringing structure, it's interesting because you started with the word structure way back at the beginning of this conversation from when you were a
Correct.
girl,
That's right.
you
Actually,
know?
yes.
hmm So just
Mhm.
in a home life that had some structure as well.
Mhm.
And as you went into the working world and university, what I hear is that you still had the foundation of structure, but it gave you a framework or a way to think about structure to support you. Is that what I heard?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
beautiful.
Yes.
And then when you started working for CEOs, of course, in supporting them, you like to be organized and it's hard for you to not work in structure. So, of course, you had to create it.
That is right. Yeah, that's correct. I
Interesting.
mean, working for CEO, C-suite executives, you really need to think about how you could help them, how you could get other stuff off their shoulders, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of where I come in, where I can be helpful in being able to, help them out in many ways. So
Ah,
not just taking off the reporting side or
right.
the spreadsheets and all the like administrative duties, right? The spreadsheets
Mm-hmm.
that they don't need to do, the phone calls they don't need to do, the organizing, the planning, the events, right? So that's all I do. I mean, that's what I do in terms of organizing their day and their flights and their itineraries.
Yeah.
And it's nice because that's what I like doing. So it's kind of like a
Yeah.
win-win. I told myself when I get to work for companies that I make sure that I love what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you love what you do, then it doesn't really feel like work, right? So it's been
Exactly.
really great. It's been an enjoyable experience for me to get to work with CEOs and executives. And, in the process, you learn something, you love what you do,
Yeah.
you travel, you get to see places and you meet people. And, by the way, during high school days, I was a very shy girl. Like I
Oh,
was a very shy person. Like you, I will never really talk to anybody until I got into university. And because in the university, I don't know, like our university is one of the top three universities in the Philippines. And I'm not really bragging by
mm-hmm.
saying that, but when you get there, that university is notorious on changing your mindset.
Oh, wow.
And I thought when I passed the entrance exams, and I was like, oh God, yes, thank you. I was like, yes, I got into this university, and I was so excited to get into what they're teaching. And I heard a
Mm-hmm.
lot about the university, and truth enough, I just kind of bloomed. I just kind of got out of my shell, and I got to be the real me, not that shy person. I love talking to people now, and since then I get to talk to people, and I thought to myself, okay, well, this is the real me.
What
And
happened in university that allowed you to blossom like that?
I don't know really. I just really happened. I got to I remember meeting really interesting professors. They're
Mm,
younger professors. And then I got to meet different people, different ethnicities, different nationalities. It's a mix of everything. You can wear anything you want, right? Because in high school, you wear uniforms, right? And then you go to university, it's a whole new world. And then, yeah, it was just really, I guess, the culture that kind of
I love that.
opened my mind into this whole new world, right? And I guess if I guess my if my personality is really like a extroverted person rather than introverted, it will just
Interesting.
automatically open up, right?
Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
Hmm.
There's a couple of things that I just want to pull on, things I've heard that I think are curious.
Hmm.
Um, so you talked about, this is so interesting. You talked about being bored when you were working for the government. And I'm
Well,
pulling,
sure.
right?
Go ahead. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I
Yeah.
guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. And interestingly, what you talked about was being helpful to CEOs, and you said getting it off their shoulders and being helpful in many different ways. And I
Mhm.
found that a curious statement because right in that statement, you're talking about complexity, helping
Mhm.
that being, and the thing is to be helpful in many different ways, there has to be a system because otherwise too
Mhm.
many balls would drop. There has to be structure if you've got a lot of that kind of variety, which is stimulating for you. So
Mhm.
by wanting to be helpful in a lot of different areas, it allowed you to, and knowing that you want that and you thrive in complexity, you were passionate about creating those structures and the systems and organizing everything so that you could actually be helpful in all the different ways that you wanted to be helpful. I find that fascinating.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, well, that's correct because I mean, being an admin person, when they say executive assistant or office manager, there's so much going on with that role, right? It's not
Yeah.
just admin and you support your boss, period.
Mm-mm.
You do everything.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
you touch on HR, IT, whatever department do you have, project development or
Mm-hmm.
business development, because the CEO runs the company. You get to talk to everybody, bank people,
Yeah,
lawyers, every day there's a variety. I love the variety of this
right.
role. And of course you have to have systems that, like you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
um, I remember working for a CEO and a COO, and each person has different style. This person is using a different system, and then the other person is using
Mm-hmm.
another system. I had to learn that system for him, but then again, you have to stick with the system that the CEO
Mm-hmm.
is using as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you really need to be flexible and kind of tweak yourself, tweak your mindset, learn this or learn that system to be able to support what they're used to, like their
Mm-hmm.
routine that they're
Mm-hmm.
used to. So I learned the system for the COO, and then I stuck with the strategy that, or the routine that the CEO is using.
Mm-hmm.
And then can you imagine writing two different reports so that you could submit to this one and to this one, and then the board is a different matter,
Yeah.
right? So I don't know, I mean, I was thinking, the role is not for everybody, because
No.
how are you going to you know compartmentalize your brain so that you're doing this three other things,
Yeah.
plus events,
Yeah.
plus a little bit of
Exactly.
marketing and whatever else on the
Yeah.
table. So
Exactly. Oh no, that's what I'm hearing. And what I heard was I kind of jotted it out because I think
mm,
as we start to understand strengths and how they are most valuable, it's
mhm,
interesting to notice the little pieces that we're bringing in that
mhm,
allow us to be masterful at our craft, right?
mhm,
What part of us are we bringing forward that allows us to be masterful, and how are we bringing that to life to be even more valuable?
mhm,
And as you talked about, I think what I'm hearing is you thrive in complexity. You love complexity, the stimulation of variety and being able to be strategic with solutions. And you,
mhm,
you love problem solving in complex
mhm,
environments. That's what I heard. Kind of we started there. And the systems and the structure, that was part of who you were as a young girl, and you were and you could lean on that because you
mhm,
could see that what I heard was you could see
mhm,
that with better systems and better structure,
mhm,
you could be more helpful. And what you just talked about was being adaptable so that you can
mhm,
adapt to the right. And that's where creativity comes in. It's because, okay, you've got to have a sense of empathy and a sense of being aware of what others are paying attention to
yeah.
so that you can adapt to their needs and adapt your systems or adapt to their systems, as the case may
Mhm.
be, so that you can continue to be in service of the bigger objective, which I hear is what energizes you.
That is very true. That is true. And you're right when you said that um it was rooted from a childhood that I was not really aware of. I guess it's in my subconscious that I was doing this. And it will be kind of what my career is going to be in the future.
Yeah.
Um,
And we can't see
although,
it. Yeah. Go
yes,
ahead.
exactly. Although I remember when I came to Canada, I was a little bit scared on
Mm.
taking on a role in a North American, in
Yeah.
Canada, in
Of
North
course.
America,
Yeah. New
and
culture,
new culture,
new
people,
language.
everything. I remember my first job, I was the only Asian person in there. I was a little
Of
bit, anxious on how
course.
to go about
Mm.
doing my job and all that. But you learn, right? You learn as you go. And
Hmm.
with my experiences back home, you just kind of transfer the skills into what you're doing, and it's
Yeah.
just a different location.
Hmm. Hmm. And really, one of the things that I do with a lot of clients is I help them identify what are the strengths that they have that and what energizes them so that they can turn that into value. And this is something that we've seen for you is you've been able to really lean into your strengths. You know what energizes you, and you create environments that support you to be not just energized, but as valuable as possible to the people that you support. So I'm
Mhm.
not surprised that you love your work because I'm hearing so much of your your individuality embedded in this formula for success that you have for yourself. What do you notice in terms of this type of thing in your work when you're helping CEOs and when you're in this environment? What do you notice about the strengths that you bring to the table? When does it work? And maybe when is it not a great match?
Hmm, great question. Um, when would it be, when is it not a great match? I would say, it will start in an interview for
Mhm.
sure, right? You go and interview for a job,
Right.
and as a job seeker, you also research about the company. There's
Hmm.
risks involved that it might not be a good fit, right?
Hmm.
And of course, it's the same thing, employers are scared that it might not be a good fit. The same
Hmm.
thing as for the job seeker. We are scared. No, not scared, but we are a little bit, you know, not anxious, but we're careful not to choose something that's not a great fit,
Right.
right? So to answer the question, you bring value to the role when, I guess it kind of would bring back to the thought of it has to be, you have to learn your boss's style first and foremost. The
Mm.
first few months, it really is about getting to know each other. I
Hmm.
remember my American boss, my very first executive job, he said, um, the relationship is like getting married to somebody. It, like in a nice way, like
Oh
there's no
yeah.
malice or whatever. And then I was shocked when he said that. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's true, right? Like, come to
You
think
spend a
of it,
lot of time together.
you spend a lot of time together, you learn each other's styles, because if not, how are you going to do your job, right?
Right.
Because, for example, the CEO wants this style and you did not deliver, and he did not. Because the thing is, for memos and letters, I would write the letter and put his name there, so it would seem that he wrote the letter.
Hmm.
If
Hmm.
that is not his style of writing, it
Yeah.
would not sound like it came from the CEO, right?
Right.
So
Exactly.
that's another thing that I kind of brought up, trying to get to know their style and learning about them. And you know and in the process, I became really intuitive and very in
Mm.
tune with, different types of people, different types of bosses. I think I met them all, the strict ones, the grumpy ones, the good ones, the bad ones. Like, I definitely kind of, I'm proud of myself for having to be able to pivot and
Yeah.
to learn about, every executive style. Because at one point, I have this role wherein they're saying that this executive hasn't he hasn't like he didn't have any executive assistant that lasted for 2 years. So
Mm.
everybody's just leaving after a few months, and
Oh,
they're
wow.
asking me, "Oh, okay, well, congratulations, you lasted for a year even." And so I thought, okay, well, I don't know why, but I was just doing my job. Like unknowingly in my subconscious, I guess we could actually go back to being flexible and
Uh-huh.
being able to, read people and read their personality type and being able to adjust to their style.
That's
So
interesting. We haven't talked about that yet in terms of
yeah.
personalities, right? But having come from, you opened with this being from a family that was multicultural
Hmm.
and
Yes.
already having that difference at home. So you were already very sensitive to different styles and different cultures in your home, which is fascinating because you learned at that time that different styles, how to navigate different styles and how to be. And every family has that to some degree. And when you bring in a multicultural environment, it's magnified,
Hmm. That
right?
is true. Yeah, that's true. I came from so I have two sisters and one brother. So there's six of us in the family. So you can
Mm.
imagine, the chaos growing up. And, I mean, having been able to uh, have this relationship with my family, and then the relatives would come in, the cousins would come in, and yeah, you could say that I came from a very big family,
Yeah.
which is kind of the opposite. When I came to Canada, I'm living by
Mm.
myself. Well, the original plan is actually, if, when once I become a citizen, then I would sponsor my family one by one, right?
Hmm.
But when that time came, nobody wants to come here anymore.
Oh,
So
oh, that's not good
so
for us.
so I mean, coming from a big family and suddenly I'm living by
Yeah.
myself in a foreign country. Some people are saying, "Oh, you're so brave coming in here,"
Mm.
and blah blah blah. Um, and I thought, yeah, and I thought to myself, well, when I came here, I was 20 plus. I was very adventurous, and I
Yeah.
wanted to, try and visit another country. And I didn't realize that, right now, not having family here is totally different.
Right.
After 13 years, I've been in Canada for 13 years now in
Mm.
Winnipeg, Manitoba. Um, and I thought, okay, well, it's still different, having your family here and, living by yourself, right?
Hmm.
Although I guess I'm kind of okay with that because back home in university, I'm in an apartment with a roommate, and then I would go home during the weekends. So I guess
Right.
for me, when I came here, it's just the same thing. And with the
Mm.
technology right now, you have Teams, you have FaceTime. I feel like I never really left home.
Uh-huh. Interesting.
Hmm.
So, bringing up technology, given
Hmm.
that you've been supporting entrepreneurs for 20 years,
Hmm.
you have seen some significant shifts in
Yes.
technology. And if I remember, are you working remotely now? You
Well, when
tend
you
to,
say, I would say hybrid because I can
okay.
still go to the office, right? Like every
Yeah.
now and then, but we are hybrid, yes.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of Teams calls and a lot of emails, phone
Right.
calls, and the in person is not really that
Yeah.
much yet.
So, how have you experienced this shift going from typically back then, it was always in the office all the time because that's just the way things were done back then. And
Hmm.
now with this technological change, there's more complexity added,
Hmm.
which I'm
Yeah.
sure, which I'm
Yeah.
sure requires a few more systems. What have you found that has been a really big change in terms of what you're in your supporting a CEO, how have you needed to pivot or adjust in this new environment of hybrid and or remote?
Right. Yeah. Well, definitely, AI nowadays is very popular.
Mm.
There's pros and cons to this technological advancement that we're experiencing right now, right? I mean, it could make your work faster, more efficient. You have AI, you have Chat GPT nowadays, and a whole other,
Mm.
Microsoft kind of Power BI embedded on it.
Hmm.
And the systems you can actually automate. You can put Power BI into them, Smart Sheets we're using right now, Microsoft Suite and the MS Planner that we started using as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it changed from, me being a people person, having always talking to people in person. Of course, I kind
Yeah,
of, it totally changed my whole working environment.
right.
I recently bought a treadmill because, and a standing desk here
Mm-hmm.
because I thought, okay, I'm always sitting down now. My previous job is the total opposite of this one, honestly, because I do events. I walk around, I follow up with people, I go to this
Right.
the clubhouse, I go to the hotel to follow up. There's always a lot of walking, and suddenly I'm sedentary. I'm not doing anything, not
Yeah.
not walking, but just sitting a lot,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So again, I need to adjust so that, I don't get sick from just sitting
Mm,
down a lot. I did a treadmill. I would put my standing desk up. And then, so I was standing while working. I really, just really trying to compensate on the health
yeah.
part
Yeah.
of, your body's not used to just sitting all the time now, right? But there's again pros and cons to that. You don't have to commute, you don't have to drive to work, prepare, deal
Mm,
with traffic, right? So those are the advantages and disadvantages of remote setting. In terms of work and how I would be able to help the executives using these systems is that it kind of lessens the, if you can call them middleman. Like for example, if you need to send a reminder to somebody, you can just input Power BI into the system and the system will just send it automatically like a
right.
reminder. And then you can actually incorporate another feature wherein you can add a report into that, to that Power BI automation,
Mm-hmm.
and you can say, okay, reminder that the report is due 2 days or 3 days from now, and that's going to automatically send to the director with the
Right.
report incorporated into that system.
Right.
Yeah.
So interesting. So this is a way where you get to use your creativity to find ways to be even more efficient,
Hmm.
is what I'm
That's
hearing.
correct.
Oh,
That's correct. Yeah.
you get to build and create different systems. So I'm hearing, yeah, I'm hearing that as you're adapting and pivoting through growth and through different environments, you're able to bring um, an inspired energy forward. Is how that's the language that's coming up for me. It's an inspired energy around how can I do this in a different way? How can I solve this problem? How can I be even more strategic? How can I create outputs that are even more helpful
Mhm.
and increase the number of outputs, right? To be even
Mhm.
more helpful in bigger ways. It sense
That's
I
right.
right? I sense that's the motivation as you're trying to do more. You're hungry for stimulation.
That's right. That's correct. And I always say, I guess my slogan or my motto in life is that you have to always think outside the box,
Mm-mm.
because problem solving involves being resourceful and thinking about, again, going back to strategies and problem solving, going back to that, you have to kind of think of how to help your CEO, help the company, and think of a solution that's outside the box, meaning with my experiences with my past roles, I would bring some experience into a new role. For example,
Yeah.
I experienced that before in the policies and procedures, or with the steps that involves cutting or streamlining this step, because I've experienced that before. So I would always bring that up to management and suggest that, okay, well, did we try doing this already? Or I would suggest that maybe we could try doing this and we can cut costs on this area, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, in my mind, I wasn't even really thinking about anything else. It's just me kind of organically suggesting that in my mind, okay, well, based on my experience, I think we could do something better. Right.
Right.
And it brings, at the end of the day, it brings value to the company. You help you help streamline their process and and also help the CEO in his strategies in running the company, cutting costs and streamlining processes.
Which, as we reflect back on your time with the government, you were probably less able to insert your creative energy.
I think so. You know what? Now that you're saying that, I kind of thought about it, which is true, because you can't really make instant decisions because you're under, the legislative or whatever,
Yeah.
departments in the government. You can't really touch right away, right?
Which is fascinating to me because you found yourself working with entrepreneurs, which is a very
Mhm.
fast-paced environment.
Mhm.
You typically have a lot more ability to adapt and pivot and create, and they're looking for systems improvement and streamlining and whatnot. They
Mhm.
honor more of that, if you will, and hope for more of that. Whereas in some settings, it's they have the systems in place, and administrative or support
Mhm.
is it's less valuable actually in those environments to try to change them, right? To
That
try
is
to
true.
change the systems. The systems are less adaptable, and they just need the work to move through the system. And there are some organizations that are like that, and then there are others like entrepreneurial environments where it's a natural part of the setting.
Right.
Is that resonating? How does that sound to you?
Right. I agree. I agree 100% because the government jobs, it's, for example, you work in a department, you do things repeatedly every day. That's all you
Yeah.
do. If you're in license and fees, you do whatever. You do site visits. I do site visits when I was there. I process invoices, checks,
Right.
and day in day out, that's all I do. I guess for me, you mentioned that, being creative and all that, and I am a creative person, and I'm kind of craving on variety, right? So I guess when I was in the government, I was just doing the same thing, and I got bored to that on doing that. And so I kind of delve into the private sector.
Yeah.
And then that's where you do this part: events, admin, marketing.
Yeah.
And it kind of inspired me to become an entrepreneur in a way.
Mm.
Actually, I built a website in 2020 by myself from scratch. And well, it's not really making money. So it was just an experimental project.
Yeah.
I mean, I test marketed, I ran it. I'm actually still paying for the domain right now, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that. I have other ideas in mind
Yeah.
nowadays, but
Interesting.
I mean, when I built that website, it was during COVID season as well,
Right.
right? Everybody's working from home. And I thought, it'd be nice if you just stay home and, you earn money, you have your own business and you don't have to go out,
Mm.
get the COVID virus by going out.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of sparked the idea of me creating a website. It was not easy because, I'm not a web developer or stuff
Right.
like that. I had to learn everything from scratch. I was learning the videos from YouTube. I was reading tutorials, and I'm building as I go along. And so, yeah, no, I was really proud I was able to kind of put
Hmm.
together stuff like that. Um, I mean, I could continue doing that and probably have to connect with. I know there's women's enterprises in Manitoba where I could connect with,
Hmm.
like-minded
Right.
people,
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, and they could connect me to somebody who could help me build the website and to, build the marketing component to
Hmm.
it. But I have some ideas nowadays, so I'm really just excited to whether to pursue that one or to connect it to a different type of
Right. Well,
entrepreneurial project.
it doesn't seem to matter what you're involved with. You are creating and building strategically around complex issues. That's what I'm
Thank
hearing, no
you.
matter what. And all the hobbies that you have are all adding to your toolbox of creativity and resources. It's fascinating. You can just see how all of your different interests can come together in an ecosystem of creating complex problems in a fast-paced environment. And I just love that. You're fascinating, fascinating, Grace. I have a question for you. Um, just as we're finishing up, I would ask you, when you think back on your journey,
Mhm.
and if someone were launching their career
Mhm.
to support others
Mhm.
in whatever form,
Mhm.
what advice or wisdom might you want to share with them?
Okay, my advice, I would say, this is just the same as giving my 20-year-old younger self advice if I
Hmm.
would look back
Yeah.
to my all my experiences. I would say just go for it, take risks, because honestly, you'll never really know, right? Like
Yeah.
life is full of mystery. Change is inevitable. Today and tomorrow is different. Even in a
Mm,
few hours, some things might be different, right? So when I came to to Canada, to Winnipeg, 13 years ago, I was just, whatever comes, I'll take it.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
would try everything. If there's a career fair, I would attend that. If there's a job fair, right? And then I volunteered a lot. And then I would just say take risk. Yeah, definitely take risks. And if something comes your way, just say yes to that. And then you'll never know where that would take you. You might meet people, you might meet
Right.
new friends, and then
Hmm.
that would open up opportunities, and then you'll never know you have a new job, right? And then or that person could introduce you to somebody, and then you network some more, and then you find your dream job by just that one event that you
Hmm.
attended, and then by meeting that person you network to 10 more people, and then you'll never know, you can meet
Exactly.
your your new employer from there. You meet new friends. You can even meet your potential um husband or
Life
wife, right?
partner. Yeah. Yeah,
Partner.
exactly. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
so yeah, and it's just really just having fun, just have fun
Yeah.
with whatever. Try something even once, and that's what I am. I would try something even just once for the experience.
Hmm.
And then somehow it opens up opportunities,
There you
in a way
go.
that you never expected.
I think that's the nugget there.
Yes.
Just try it because you never know what it'll open up. You never know what's
Yes.
on the other side. That's
Exactly.
spectacular. By trying new things, you're exposed to a whole new world.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
it's brilliant. Grace, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I can hear and I know that any entrepreneur who values someone who's strategic and creative and thrives and craves that fast-paced environment is definitely very lucky to be supported by you.
Thank you so
So
much.
thank you for today. Thank you for sharing your story, and we'll look forward to our next conversation.
All right. Thanks so much, Michelle. Thanks for having me.
My genuine pleasure. Thank you, Grace. Bye for
Okay,
now.
thank you. Bye.